Hello everyone. This story is about, what if God-like Naruto was able to feel other people's emotions and fall in love with Mei and Anko? Please like, share and subscribe for more. Also check the other fics I've uploaded. Now let's start. You knew, didn't you? Hyuga asked from his bedroom door. Her hands were on her hips, and she was trying to give him an annoyed look, but she couldn't fool him. Even without his empathy telling him she was shouting for joy on the inside, her annoyed yet incredibly excited and happy face was enough for anyone to know the truth. Hyuga had proposed. I found out yesterday. Sorry, Hyuga, he smiled. But this was one surprise I had to let you experience. The purple-haired woman narrowed her eyes for a moment before she couldn't hold it back anymore and rushed into his room. Her arms wrapped around him faster than he thought his sister could move. Was she always this fast? He was happy that Suzu didn't try to attack her like she did to everyone else who entered his room without his permission. It seemed like his pup was learning that family never had to ask. He said you approved. Her arms tightened around him. That means the world to me, little brother. Her voice was shaky, and she was trying her best not to shed tears. She was a badass, powerful kunoichi, and she didn't want to look like a little girl in front of the greatest shinobi in Konoha. I know, Nei-chan. He rubbed her back gently. I know. She didn't make any noise, but she didn't have to. His shoulder was wet, and he could feel the storm of emotions inside her. His approval of this marriage meant more to Hyuga than anyone but Naruto could know. He wasn't just her little brother. He wasn't just her captain. He wasn't just her best friend. He wasn't just her role model. He was her family, the only person she's ever been able to call that since her father passed, and that was when she was still in the academy. Naruto was the other piece of the puzzle for her, and she loved him with all of her heart. For him to accept Hyuga as someone good for her, there was no greater proof that she had fallen in love with the right man. And then for him to actually like him. It was perfect. Nothing could ruin this. Suzu started licking Yuga's cheek, her own way of cheering the kunoichi up. She still didn't know the difference between happy tears and sad tears. But that was okay, because she had plenty of time to learn. Hyuga smiled at the dog's gesture. You know, she finally started. He felt her mischievous mind. You're my best friend, Naruto-kun. He was just silent, a sullen look on his face. He now understood where this was going. You know what that means, right? The blonde sighed. Could a man really be a bridesmaid? This was one of Hiruzen's and Naruto's favorite things to do. Atop the Hokage tower, the Lord Third Hokage stood, his shadow, to his right, amongst the children of the academy. Even though most of them were a little bored, Naruto could feel their respect and admiration for the leader of Konoha. When he wanted to be, Hiruzen was everyone's grandfatherly figure. He had an aura around him that made him feel like the warmest man in the country. He treated his people with care and affection, and the entire village loved him. Most of the villagers and academy students had never seen his shinobi side. Not many of them could imagine him being the powerful god that he was. The academy was being closed for the Chunin exams, so the old Sarutobi decided to talk with them before they were excused from classes. In the place where leaves dance, the Hokage began. His eyes were on the faces of the Hokage before him. The fire burns. He couldn't help but linger on the face of his sensei, the Lord Second. The shadow of the fire shines on the village. He closed his eyes and turned around. When he next opened them, the faces of the shinobi and kunoichi of the future greeted him. It was strange though, because he did not see the faces of children. He saw the faces of the young men and women they would become. His grandson was garbed in the Hokage robes. His two friends were next to him, the new elders. He saw boys and girls as the new Jonin and Chunin force. It was a beautiful sight indeed, and Naruto could feel it, and almost see it with his own eyes. Once again, new leaves sprout. He finished. Most of the students didn't understand the meaning behind his words, but Naruto was proud that Konohamaru was able to get most of it. He understood the importance of the next generation. He truly listened to Naruto whenever they spoke, and the Uzumaki knew that he would become an excellent Hokage one day. Would you like to say something, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen asked. Naruto smiled, nodding his head. Being a shinobi of Konoha means a lot more than most think. He took a deep breath. We do the righteous work of God. Here he looked at their Hokage, so that heaven may stay pure. He brought his sight back to the students. As long as we have the will of fire, Konoha will always shine its light upon the elemental nations. That confused the children even more, but they'd understand one day, and that would be the day they became something more than shinobi and kunoichi. That would be the day they became angels of heaven. Alright class, Yumino Irika, the academy instructor said, you're all excused. Have a nice break, and I'll see you all soon. With those words said, all of the students rushed off, eager to do whatever it was children did. All that was left on top of the Hokage tower was the Hokage, Naruto, and Irika. You know, Naruto-san, you have a particular way with words. Irika laughed. It's like everything you say sounds so important, and even if you can't understand it right away, it always makes sense later. He shook his head. And it usually happens when you need your words the most. He sighed. It's amazing, and I wish I had the gift. Naruto just smiled. It's not a gift, Irika-san. He turned to the village. It's the truth. Once you understand the village, truly understand her, then you know what to say when talking about her. He chuckled. She's just like a woman, she wants someone to protect her, to take care of her, and treat her like she's the most important person in the world. And let's face it, she is. Irika shook his head again. Like I said, away with words. He bowed to the Hokage and his shadow. Have a good day, Hokage-sama, Naruto-san. When the two nodded their heads, Irika took his leave, leaving the two most powerful men in Konoha alone. Are you positive it's him? Hiruzen asked in his serious, Hokage tone. He sighed. Of course you are. He knew that his shadow wouldn't guess at something this serious. Whatever you ask of me, Hokage-sama, shall be done. Naruto replied. He was on his knee, and had his right fist over his heart. It was hard to kick ANBU habits. We wait and see who all is involved. We prepare for the coming battle. The Lord Third ordered. And after that, Hokage-sama? The smile on his face said he knew the answer. Even the Sarutobi found himself smirking. Death to all enemies of heaven. Naruto couldn't have said it better. Sasuke entered the academy with Sai and Sakura, the three of them ready for the Chunin exams. He had been training with Naruto since the mission to the Land of Waves, and he was ready to see how much he improved. The genin of Team 7 walked in silence and understanding between them. They were ready for this, more so than they thought they'd be. Sai, of course, was not at all worried, his lack of emotions helping him. He had been putting himself through the training to rid someone of emotions when they came back from Wave. He never wanted to feel such fear again. Sakura was surprised with herself. She thought she'd be reluctant to do this, but she was actually eager. She was upset with Naruto at first when he told her she was a weak little girl that needed to toughen up. And when he said that she would never get Sasuke's attention unless she took being a kunoichi serious, she had promptly gave him a dirty look and walked away. After some thinking though, she had understood what he was saying. She never really took her, at least the physical side of, kunoichi training serious. And it made sense that Sasuke wanted to be with someone that, well, wasn't like her. So she went to Kakashi and asked for extra help. Ever since then, she's never trained harder in her life. Then there was Sasuke. The young Uchiha had never been more confident in his life, yet, for some reason the usual arrogance that came with it was nowhere to be seen. He knew what he wanted now, what he really wanted, and he'd do anything and everything to get it. He could already feel it happening. He was becoming a monster. Team 7 came up to a door crowded by genin. There were 2 people guarding the door, not letting anyone pass. When they got into hearing distance, Sasuke had to smirk. No. This is the Chunin exams, brats like you guys don't have what it takes to be Chunin, one of them said with a smirk of his own on his face. Yeah, look at it like this, we're helping you. You're all so weak that you'd all die if you competed, the other said. A girl with her hair in 2 buns gave him a pleading look. Come on, please let us in. Sasuke just shook his head and continued walking, already seeing the genjutsu, even without his Sharingan. That his team was following him told him that they knew, too. His smirk returned. Team 7 was ready. While he walked away, to the real place they were told, he decided to listen to Naruto. As he walked past the genin he knew, he tapped them, letting them know, secretly, that they weren't at the right place. We protect and defend Konoha, and all of her citizens. So we're both proctoring the second exam? Anko asked, curiously. Yeah, Naruto said a little awkwardly. Are you okay with that? He asked. Anko sighed and gave him an exasperated look. Look, Naruto. She looked him in the eyes. When you told me that you loved someone else, too, I was just really shocked. She smiled. You may love her, but I know that you love me, too, and right now, that's enough. She crossed her arms under her breasts and gave him a playful smirk. And I won't lose to anyone. Am I totally fine with it? No. But can I deal with it until we can make a decision? Yes. It's not like you're with anyone yet, so you're not cheating. And like I said, I'm just going to act like she doesn't exist until I actually meet her. So please, don't make it awkward around me. That would suck, because I really want to be with you. Naruto gave a small smile. Apparently she had thought a great deal about this since then. She was less hurt, and more eager to not lose to Mei. She still wasn't totally happy, but she knew what she wanted, and she was going to try her hardest to get it. Alright, sounds good to me. Her cheeky smirk returned before she leaned over and placed a kiss on his lips. Good. Now, let's go meet the little genin. He felt her excited mind. I've got a surprise for Ibiki. Naruto smiled. Ah, I almost forgot, Ibiki-san was tasked as the proctor for the written exam. His smile grew. Let's see this surprise of yours. The genin of multiple hidden villages were very surprised when something crashed through the window to their left. When a very sexy lady clad in clothing, if it could be called as much, that left very little to the imagination, they were even more surprised, and the male portion of the genin were very excited. She had a banner above her that read Mei Anko, very sexy, and not available, across it in bold letters. Oh, and the bringer of hope was standing behind her with a very amused look on his face. You're a little early, Anko. He looked towards Naruto and nodded his head, receiving the same from the blonde. A little extravagant and over the top, too, he said seriously, looking at the broken window and banner. Anko gave a sheepish look, which then turned into something more confident. You can never be too over the top. She smirked. Wow, Ibiki, there's a lot of them left this year. She looked at the head of the TNI department. You getting soft on me? Ibiki gave her a look that was the same as always, but it somehow seemed to be colder than usual. Did you ever think that we just might have a good crop this year? Oh. And is that the case? She asked, looking the genin over. Yes. He replied simply. Yeah, well not even half of them will be here after the second exam. She said, making the genin of the room nervous. Indeed. Naruto finally joined the conversation. The genin in this room will be at training ground 44 tomorrow at 8 in the morning. He gazed over the remaining genin. Mitarashi and I are the proctors of the second exam, so you'll see us there. Mitarashi and... Who are you? A random Kusanin asked, looking at the blonde teenager who couldn't be too much older than most of them. Anko smirked. Wrapping her arms around his neck from the back, she let the genin know exactly who he was. This is Uzumaki Naruto, the bringer of hope. Most of the room froze. Training ground 44 at 8, he repeated. No one said a word, but Naruto knew they understood. You're all dismissed. He gave Sasuke a look that said, stay here. As the genin filed out of the academy room, Sasuke stood and walked to stand near Naruto and Anko, who still had her arms around him. He wasn't going to complain though. He actually liked it. Report, the blonde ordered. Sasuke nodded. I've only seen one person that seems odd, he began. His name's Yakushi Kabuto, and he's a Konohanin. Naruto nodded, already knowing about the spy. Other than that nothing strange really happened. He smirked. Well, some kid wearing green spandex tried to fight me before the exam. Naruto smirked. He knew Lee would try something like that. Even when I declined, he tried to initiate the fight. It was stopped before it could start by his sensei. He gave a strange look. He was wearing green spandex, too. Naruto just shook his head, and Anko laughed at the look Sasuke gave when talking about Guy. I wouldn't jump to conclusions about those two, Sasuke. Naruto decided to warn the Uchiha now. Out of all the genin I've met, Lee is the only one who has a serious chance at beating you. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, both confused and doubtful, but knowing better than to outright dismiss his sensei's words. Naruto never said anything he didn't actually believe. And out of all the jonin in this village, Guy is the only one who could, if he truly wished it, kill me. Even Anko looked surprised at Naruto's words. Guy? Mato Guy was that strong? Naruto smirked at the two shocked expressions. Don't underestimate the green and blue beasts of Konoha. Naruto and Sasuke were standing on top of the Hokage monument, taking in the peaceful image of the setting sun. The clouds were thin and the sky was a mixture of burnt orange and yellow. The air was cool and the breeze was calming. Why do you think I call Konoha heaven, Sasuke? The blonde suddenly asked. Sasuke was a little surprised since they had been up here for an hour and neither of them had said anything. They did that a lot lately, just sitting up on the Hokage monument and watching the village. It was always calming and nice after a long day of training. The Uchiha took a moment to seriously think about it. A lot of people would say that it was, because you call the Hokage God, he finally said. Do you think that's why as well? Naruto asked, curious of what he thought. The two of them were still looking at the village. No. The Uzumaki didn't have to look to know there was a smile on Sasuke's face. I used to, he said honestly. But I know better now. He took in a deep breath. I may not have empathy, but being around you all the time, hearing how you think about the world. I think I understand it a little now. Sasuke closed his eyes. Even with my eyes closed, I can hear it. I can feel it. His eyes opened. This is our heaven, our golden city, our sanctuary. Konoha is a safe haven for the pure. The Hokage has always talked about the will of fire, and before, it was just the words of an old warrior past his prime, in my eyes at least. And now? Naruto asked. Now, it makes more sense than anything. It's the will, the desire to protect heaven. It's the desire to protect the pure. And who exactly are the pure? The men and women of our village, of our heaven. Sasuke took another deep breath. You call Konoha heaven not because of the god leading it, but because of the angels residing in it. Naruto finally turned to Sasuke. His face never changed from the stoic expression he wore. I know this is hard for you to talk about, but I need to hear you say it. Sasuke hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. Did you love Itachi? Sasuke froze for a minute before closing his eyes and turning his head down and to the right. Yes. He whispered, like it was a terrible taboo to admit his feelings. He was my big brother. Of course I did. Naruto took a deep breath. I have one more question. Sasuke's eyes met his. Do you trust me? Obsidian eyes kept ocean blue ones for a good minute before Sasuke spoke. With my life. Naruto smirked. Good. His eyes turned gold and his hand met Sasuke's head. You're ready to see it. His chakra flared. All of it. Flashback 1. Naruto immediately recognized the small form that was held in the man's left arm as the person he felt. He could still feel their fear even now. He wanted to change that immediately. The man looked down on the small boy in front of him and snarled, "Out of my way, runt." The head ninja of Kumo barked. Naruto was silent for a moment, too angry to even move his body. He had felt the unknown man when he arrived and he now knew his intentions. He was taking what was not his to take. He was condemning an innocent and, what he now knew, the gentlest girl he'd ever felt to a life of servitude and abuse. He knew the man thought of her as nothing more than a pawn, a means of reproducing powerful and, if her eyes were anything to go by, special shinobi. Naruto truly despised this man, he was the scum of this earth. Something inside Naruto clicked. He knew what he had to do. He could now feel and understand himself. He knew what he was now. The dark-skinned shinobi vaulted over the child in front of him, knowing that time was against him. He had no time to deal with someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He kept running, making decent distance, until he was stopped once more. Again, the blonde-haired boy suddenly flashed in front of him, almost too fast for him to react to. In the back of his mind, he was worried just how strange it was for someone so young to be so fast. He snarled, and went to grab a kunai from his pouch to dispense with the nuisance. That's when he felt it. Naruto's hand raised into the air, ignoring the man's attempt to bring out a weapon, and began to do the impossible. The world, which was the only way he could describe it, began to twist and turn, producing the same energy that was currently occupying his body. However, now it was different, more refined, sharper, and tangible. From the very air itself, bright golden, the same color as his eyes, particles began to appear, floating in the sky above him. With the flick of his wrist, the particles stirred, slowly rotating, grinding itself in a circular motion, enthusiastically obeying its master's whims. The grizzled man's eyes widened. He didn't exactly know what was happening, but he was able to understand that it wasn't all that good for his health. It was supposed to be dark out, being well past sundown, but with the golden matter that was flying around, the sky was ablaze in a molten gold fury. It briefly passed through the head ninja's mind that, for a moment, it had looked like the heavens themselves opened up to bring forth their wrath on him. It was the most terrifyingly beautiful thing the seasoned Jonin had ever seen. Naruto's hand shot open, spreading his fingers in the air. That's when the particles took form, mimicking his right arm, the spread fingers and all, just in a much larger proportion. It looked like it was the right hand of God more than a small child's anger. Naruto gave one more soul-piercing glare at the man, their eyes meeting for mere seconds. In those chaste moments, the head ninja had thought the boy could actually see his soul for what it was, tainted. He had never felt sheer terror like this before. So why was it so serene? For a moment, the Kumonin wondered why he wasn't moving, why he wasn't cutting this strange child's throat and vanishing into the night. And then he knew, with a strange, detached realization, that he couldn't. Whatever the thing in the sky was, it demanded all his attention. Not even the fear of being caught by the Konoha shinobi could spur him. The Uzumaki could feel the familiar presence of who he guessed was the girl's father. Familiar as in he had felt the man before, he had by now memorized all of Konoha's citizens. He nodded at the man, and the older Hyuga wasted no time to leap forward and scoop his daughter in his arms. Once he leapt back out of the way, Naruto had no reason to wait anymore. In the back of his head he knew he was being watched. He could recognize Hokage Gigi's presence anywhere, and he was always with members of the zoo, so they, too, were he very familiar with. Especially the lazy-feeling one, he was the blonde's favorite. That didn't matter now though. All that mattered, at this very moment, was to rid the world of this disgusting man. Like an enraged god bringing down his divine judgment, Naruto clenched his hand in a fist while slamming it down into the ground at his feet, cracking a large portion of it. He unleashed all his anger with a monstrous shout, something that sounded more animal than human. Aahaha. In a blink of an eye, the gold hand-like structure fell to the earth right above the would-be kidnapper from Kumo, with earth-shattering might. End flashback. Sasuke gasped and fell back. He was breathing heavily, and sweat adorned his brow. He took a few seconds to catch his breath before he spoke. Did that really happen? He asked breathlessly. When Naruto nodded, Sasuke gulped. But you were only 6. That's impossible. The Uchiha was visibly shaking. This is why I am showing it to you, Sasuke. Naruto began. I'm showing you that nothing is impossible for monsters. The blonde once again put his hand on the raven-haired boy's head. Now, there is much more for me to show you. And just like before, Sasuke's eyes lit with gold, and he once again felt everything that Naruto had felt, like he was the one experiencing it. Flashback 2. Nezumi, no, he was Naruto now, he was awake, was face to face with two S-class Jinchuriki. They had taken countless lives, Konoha included, and had years to tame the beasts within. Naruto was 8, and the only time he interacted with his charge, they didn't even speak. Unfortunately for them, that was enough. I hate to have to do this, but the only way that stubborn old fool will get off our backs is if we bring him another bijou, a man with a large red hat and samurai-like armor groaned. Let us be done with it then, Han. I do not wish to fight a child any more than you, but if we want to have our freedom, it's necessary. A man with red clothing and paint that covered both of his cheekbones and the bridge of his nose said. Do you really believe we'll have to fight him, Rashi? Han asked. No, but you should never underestimate your opponent. Especially when your opponent is a Konoha. They're known for producing child prodigies. Rashi replied. So, what is it going to be, boy? Are you going to surrender, or are you going to resist us? Either way, you're coming back to IWA with us. Naruto smirked. He was shaking, but not out of fear. He was excited. He was awake. This would be the first time the words left his lips. Death to all enemies of heaven. Rashi noticed it before Han, but it didn't matter, it happened too fast. The blonde child's eyes turned a molten gold, and his pupils slitted. His very skin began to peel off, replaced with a dark and sinister red-black. A giant beam of demonic energy rushed to the sky, breaking through to the heavens. Both Rashi and Han were pushed away by the force of the chakra, and this was only the beginning. This was the feeling he had been waiting for, craving for since he joined Rohan. It was untamed beauty. It was majestic freedom. It was the beginning of the end for these IWA Jinchuriki. A terrible roar rocked the surroundings, the nearby trees were uprooted by the force. Rashi and Han had just recovered from the shockwave of Bija Chakra when they were buffeted by the shockwave from the roar. This was no ordinary Bija Chakra. They both knew that Konoha was in possession of the Kyubi no Kitsune, but the fox couldn't have been so different from the Yonbi and Gobi. Right? When the vortex of chakra cleared, the nightmarish eyes of a miniature Kyubi were staring at the IWA Nin. That was expected. What wasn't expected was the sinister. Monster smiled at war. Neither of the IWA shinobi had ever seen a transformation so fast, and neither of them had ever seen it. Smile at them. They were seasoned Jinchuriki warriors, with years and years of experience under their belts, but when they looked at that horrible, smiling face, all they could see was death. Rashi was the first to react. His entire body was covered in the lava of the Yonbi. With it, he dashed towards the monster. He was incredibly fast, but not fast enough to challenge Naruto when he worked with his first friend. His only friend. A hand burst from the Bija cloak, rushing after the blitzing Rashi. The lava user smirked. Nothing could stop his rush with brute force, and the naive child would soon learn his place. His confidence was crushed when he was hit by an invisible force, like a sledgehammer, to the skull. It completely stopped him, crushing a few ribs while it was at it. His breath left him and he was completely at the mercy of the red-black hand mere inches away from him. Before Naruto could make contact with Rashi, he had to dodge a steam-powered fist from Han. Flipping to his left, the overpowered fist hit nothing but earth, and that's when Naruto had had enough. Naruto, or was he Kurama? Bent his head back, ready to bring the wrath every Bija possessed down on the fools who had the gall to attack him. Again, Rashi noticed it before Han. The first color that appeared was red, a red just as dark as the color of the monster, creating it. The next color to appear was blue, the color of the monster's true eyes. Black was next, the same color they saw within the monster's eyes, the color of his bloodlust, the color of their demise. Next, gold brighter than the sun joined the first three. In a matter of seconds, a ball of compressed chakra, the likes of which should have been impossible, was hovering over the face of a monster. That's when his mouth opened to impossible proportions. The fact that his mouth actually cracked and split open to fit the chakra-made ball inside was proof of how impossible it was, and he ate it. Any Jinchuriki that was able to go as far as the child knew what was coming, but this was on a different level than anything they'd ever seen before. Rashi saw that the demon was aiming at Han, the only friend he had ever had. He also saw how Han couldn't move, his hand still stuck within the earth. And then, the monster actually spoke. "We are the angel of heaven, the harbinger of God." Rashi sighed, it was that time then. Rashi had never let the Yonbi out completely before, it killing him if he did being the key factor. There was always a first time for everything though. Han's eyes widened when giant hands picked him up, breaking his hand that was in the ground in the process, and threw him in the general direction of IWA. His surprise was overtaken by fear and despair when a beam of pure gold shot from the mouth of the miniature Kyubi. It was a fine, thin beam, so when it expanded before hitting the form of the Yonbi, he didn't realize just how powerful it was. When the beam met the face of the Yonbi, and there wasn't a terrible scream of pain, he knew already just how powerful it was. He started to fall, but he was able to catch the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. The Yonbi's head was gone. The cloak of Bija Chakra faded, revealing an unscathed Naruto. He took in a deep breath, regaining his individuality. Being an 8-year-old boy and a 1,000-year-old Biju at the same time was something very new and strange for him. It was like he was synced with him, with Kurama. That was his name, and he may technically be androgynous, but he thought of himself as male. He was able to learn everything about Kurama in that limited time they were awake together. They knew everything about each other now, and Naruto knew he had a lifetime partner in the mightiest of the tailed beasts. The Gobi's Jinchuriki got away. Kurama snarled through the link they shared. Naruto smirked. It seemed like he, too, liked being awake. I know. We'll get to him one day. Naruto replied. And Kurama, he paused, thank you. Being awake with you. It was incredible. He couldn't see his partner, but he didn't need to. The Kyuubi was smiling. Anytime, Kit. Naruto understood the Bija now. He was the first human to ever understand him, and he was the first human he understood. They were both monsters, and they both embraced what they were. He took in a deep breath again, calming his mind. That's when he felt it. It was like a whisper, floating through the air, trying to become whole again. He had never felt anything like it before, and he didn't know what he could do. Can you feel it, too, Kurama? The Uzumaki asked. Yes. It's the Yonbi. We Bija never die, we just reform when we're slain. Kurama explained. It's incredibly painful though. Naruto nodded. He could tell that the presence he felt was in pain, excruciating pain. It roared and screamed, and Naruto couldn't tell what was worse, the fact that a Bija was crying, or that no one but him could hear it. He didn't notice that he was shedding tears for the four tails until his vision began to blur. This was the first time he had ever cried for something. And this was the first time he decided to save, to protect someone that was not of Konoha. End flashback. Sasuke took another gasp of air, trying to control his breathing. He was able to stay standing this time, but it was still very taxing on him. He was emotionally drained as well. When Naruto let him look at his past experiences, he was able to see them through the Uzumaki's eyes. He was able to feel everything that Naruto felt, and it was almost too much for someone like him, someone without empathy. He never knew that the Uzumaki could actually feel the minds and hearts of everything around him. It was amazing, but it could also be seen as a curse. The pain and sorrow of the people and things around him were emphasized, so when he realized that he, too, was shedding tears for the Yonbi, he didn't try to hide it. If there was ever anything to cry about, this was it. Why are you showing me all of this? Sasuke asked in a weak voice. Naruto just kept looking at him with his stoic expression. You're ready, so you will know soon, he replied, placing his hand on the Uchiha's head once again. Flashback 3. I still haven't told you your fourth and most foolish mistake. Hyuga made his way back to the boy, wanting to hear his final words, slipping his mask off to look him in the face, before he left. His eyes immediately widened when he saw the vicious smirk on the young face. That's when the seals decorating his body lit up, signaling their activation. The room shook and cracked under the pressure of the power the child was emitting, trying, and succeeding, to break from the suppression seals. One by one, the many tags burst, sending smoke into air in an impossible show of strength. The blonde's eyes were a molten gold, staring straight into the man's soul. Hyuga was the Mizukage, and the Jinchuriki of the Sanbai. He wasn't scared easily. But when the boy next spoke, he was terrified. You fucked with Konoha. In the blink of an eye, the now awake Naruto was in front of Hyuga, sending him through multiple walls with a single natural energy-enhanced punch. He made sure the blow wouldn't kill him, it wouldn't be fun if he died right away. He wanted to play. The second his fist met the man's face, 3 of the Hunter Nin were on him, their kunai in hand. Their hands were outstretched to slice through him when they heard him whisper a god into existence. Bishamon. The golden form of the god of justice and war formed around their target, successfully blocking the blades just with his body. The thing was tangible. Wonderful. What the hell was this kid? Naruto didn't even turn to face the men behind him, he wasn't here to waste his time with these people. He'd get to them shortly. Instead, Bishamon turned, his entire body now facing the 10 occupants of the room his master was previously imprisoned in. When the thing began to go through a series of hand seals, the men suddenly emitted the feeling of dread. Good. Naruto uttered the technique being used by the golden construct of natural energy. Keton, Gokaku no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique. When the golden god brought his right hand to his mouth, the room, along with the men inside, were incinerated into nothingness by impossibly huge, white-hot flames. He didn't know, and really didn't care, but he had just produced the world's biggest fireball in history. He was a monster, he knew he was capable of feats no other could conceive of. Confidence, not arrogance. He could see the Mizukage stand from the rubble in the distance of the room he was slammed in. That meant the man wanted to play some more. Naruto was happy about his decision. Hyuga took the staff-like pole he had on his back into his hand, letting Naruto get a better look at the uneven hooks at the end, and the green flower on the larger end. It was an odd weapon to use, but the blonde learned not to judge something on its appearance only. The Mizukage spun it in his hands for a moment, before he took off in the direction of the person who had the audacity to attack him in his own village. The Mizukage staff met Naruto's Tonto in an impressive display of kenjutsu. Even if he wasn't using a sword, the hooks at the ends of the pole were close enough. Hyuga was getting angry. With every strike, the blonde was able to parry it with one hand at ease. He was even putting all of his strength in every swing. It meant the boy was much stronger, and that was impossible. He was a Kage. He had more experience in combat than a child. Yet, he was being toyed with like he was the less experienced. It really annoyed Hyuga. The two broke off from their brief weapons duel, jumping back to a safer distance. I don't know how you did it, but you are still my prisoner, even if you are not chained. Naruto responded with a crazed smile, and a blue sphere began to come into existence in his right hand, causing Hyuga to widen his eyes. He could tell that thing was made of pure chakra, and it would either severely wound or kill him if it found its mark. So when the boy rushed at him, intending to slam the ball of energy into him, he brought his staff up, ready to counter the boy's jutsu. Rasengan. Naruto howled, driving the Lord Fourth's technique at the Mizukage. Hyuga smirked as he spoke. Suiton, Mizukagami no Jutsu. Out of the large, flat circular pool of water came a perfect copy of Naruto, down to the Rasengan and everything. It shocked Naruto for all of 2 seconds before he dismissed it and decided to test what this copy of him was made of. When their Rasengans met, Naruto was impressed that they were on the same scale, and effectively cancelled both jutsu. When the clash was over though, Hyuga's copy of him dispersed into water. Your abilities are nothing to me, boy. The Mizukage sneered. There is nothing you can throw at me that I can't toss right back. He added, his tone claiming he was the superior. Naruto smiled and then waved, disappearing in a puff of smoke. Hyuga's eyes widened. The one he had been facing was only a Kagebunshin? Where was the real one then? He was informed of the boy's position when the back of his head was impacted by the blonde's foot. This kid was seriously fast, much faster than he was, or anyone he had ever met for that matter. He couldn't keep up with the fight as it was now. It didn't matter if he could cancel the ANBU's attacks if he couldn't react to them fast enough. He needed to change his tactics. He needed a game changer. He needed his bijou. The wild grin on Naruto's face was absolutely sinister. He really liked playing with other bijou. The red-black cloak that represented a tailed beast chakra began to flood Hyuga's body, showing the world his exceptional control over the Sanbai. Naruto knew the real reason though. The same man controlling the Mizukage's actions had also enthralled the bijou, making his cooperation with its host incredible. He had complete access to the giant turtle. The air was thick with the version 2's transformation complete. An actual weight was bearing down on all of Kiri. White eyes bore into gold ones, through a vicious miasma of scarlet and black, searching for any kind of fear in the Konoha. He knew the boy was a Jinchuriki, but his control over the bijou should have struck fear into anyone. It made the water shadow nervous that the boy was so collected, even when staring what looked like a demon in the eyes. He decided to ignore his feelings and attack the boy with all of his might. The three-tailed, version 2 form shot from his position at Naruto, pulling his arm back to strike with enough force to shatter entire buildings. This had killed every shinobi who tried to block, thinking they were physically stronger than he was with the Sanbai's chakra surrounding him in the demonic shroud. So imagine his surprise when the boy caught his enhanced punch with enough force that blew out the wall behind the blonde. Even more surprising was when he tried to retract his fist, he couldn't get out of the blonde's grip. The Sanbai's chakra didn't even burn him, which he guessed made sense since he, too, was a Jinchuriki. But the boy's physical strength, even with the Kyuubi helping him, which he could tell was not happening at the moment, shouldn't have made it possible to hold him back with little effort. What are you? The deep and intimidating voice, coming from the transformed Hyuga, asked in awe. This child couldn't be human, not with this kind of power. The smirk he received was unsettling. I'm a real monster, he said, before letting go of the man's fist and slamming a kick in his head, sending his fellow Jinchuriki sailing. Before he could impact with anything, Naruto was behind him and slammed another kick into his chin, sending Yagura into the ceiling this time, crashing his way to the surface. The sight of Kirigakura's Mizuki and his bijou cloak being thrown from his own office forcefully was seen by many. The blonde boy who was thought to be the leader's prisoner came from the building next, the obvious assailant. It caused the people watching to hold their breath in anticipation. What was going on? Once the bijou-enhanced Mizuki hit the ground, he took off for Naruto again, this time intent on hitting him with a Sangosho to slow his movement. Just like last time though, he wasn't fast enough and ended up receiving another powerful kick, sending him flying away from the village. This was Naruto's plan. He needed to be alone for his secondary task, and too many lives would be taken if they started their death match in the heart of the village. He wanted Mei to have something to lead afterwards, and destroying Mizu no Kuni's hidden village and its people would be counterproductive. Yagura roared in anger. The boy was playing with him and he was still dominating the fight completely. He wanted to change that. When Naruto saw the Mizukage begin his bijou mode transformation, he was ecstatic. He hadn't fought a bijou in years, and the last time he did, it was so much fun. The thought of taking a tailed beast on head-to-head was something most people would fear, and try their best to avoid. Naruto was the farthest thing from normal though, and he loved the idea of doing the impossible. Everyone had a hobby, and that was his. The giant turtle bijou appeared on the outskirts of Kiri in all its glory. The shell of the beast was a dark gray, with spikes standing up all around its body, promising pain to all who got too close. Underneath, the shell was a dark red or maroon color, as was the only eye he had open, the iris being a dark orange and the pupil the same maroon. Its three tails swayed back and forth in the air while he observed his newest opponent. Yagura was still in charge, his mind the dominant in the transformation. So he still possessed the rage he had toward the boy for making him look like he couldn't handle himself against a mere child. Without preamble, the form of the sambai shifted into that of a ball-like shape, shooting itself at the blonde with incredible speed. In his head, Yagura had been absolutely livid. He was going to show the child what a real monster looked like. That was a big no-no. With a shout of effort, Naruto met the spinning form of the sambai with nothing but his own fist. For a second, the Mizukage had thought the boy was foolish to try and challenge the powerful attack from the gigantic being. He then realized that he was the fool. He never even had a chance. This wasn't even a real fight. You needed two for that, and Yagura was obviously the only one trying. With an impossible display of godlike strength, the Mizukage in his bijou mode was stopped in his tracks, and then shot even further from Kiri than they already were. The blow was the most devastating thing he had ever felt, and he was cursing the gods that he was still conscious, because what came next was even worse. Yagura had angered Naruto, actually angered him, and caused the blonde to forego his decision to hold back. He was full of natural energy, and bijou chakra raced around his body in an excited manner. He had felt the man's mind, and what he heard caused him to snap. No. Now Naruto was going to show him what a monster could do. The sambai was laid on its back, still trying to recover from the powerful punch. With brute strength that would cause Tsunade to gulp, Naruto took hold of the bijou and threw him into the sky above. He was not finished. When Jiraiya had taught him the Rasengan, he had mentioned that it was incomplete. The Yondaime apparently wanted to add a nature chakra to the technique, but died before he could. The Toad Sage had tried for many years to complete his student's prized jutsu but was never able to. It was incredibly difficult. Naruto really loved his wind affinity. The screeching wind signaled the new variant of the Rasengan. Blades of wind rotated around a grinding ball of energy, screaming to be let loose. And let loose it was. Futon, Rasen Shuriken. The destructive spinning sphere was hurled into the beast's back, blasting it even higher in the sky. He was not finished. In the next blink, Naruto was above the tailed beast now, with two Rasen Shurikens this time, one in each hand. Futon, Tsuin Rasen Shuriken, wind release. Twin Rasen Shuriken. He shouted as he shot both of the powerful versions of the Rasengan he had created at the bijou who was still being buffeted in his back by the first one. When the twin spheres met the sambai's body, he was crushed on both sides for a moment, before the two overpowered the one, forcing the bijou back down to the ground with an earth-shattering crash. He was not finished. Bishamon. He shouted, the god coming into the world with his words. This time though, the god's body had something it never did before. Naruto willed himself to stay in the sky, golden wings, now protruding from his powerful sage dust technique. Not wasting any time, Naruto continued his assault. Senpo, Kami no Mijaite, Sage Art. The right hand of God. With all of the might he could muster, he dove from his spot in the sky like the warrior of God he was and slammed the powerful fist of a kami into the sandbai, officially ending his wave of carnage upon the Mizukage. Now he was almost finished. Naruto landed on the ground next to the crater the Bijou was smashed into, letting Bishamon take his leave, back to the heavens to sit amongst the gods again. Yugura began to revert back to his human shape, no longer capable of holding Bija mode. The Uzumaki jumped into the crater to stand over the fallen Kage. He needed to tell the man one last thing before he allowed him to die. He crouched down so that he could speak these words into his opponent's ear. "Take this with you into the pure world," he whispered. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and when I'm finished here," he waved one arm into the sky to elaborate, "I can't wait to play over on that side." He finished. Yugura's last thoughts before the blonde boy he now knew to be Naruto snapped his neck were of acceptance. He had met a real monster. The sound of the Yonde Mizukage's neck snapping filled the crater, announcing, finally, the fall of Yugura. It was now time for Naruto to start his second task. Just like before, the pain and suffering he could feel brought tears to his eyes. And just like before, he decided to do something about it. He was incredibly happy that his Hokage had ordered him to do this, because it made it all the better. End flashback. Sasuke was able to catch his breath easier than last time, and he was less exhausted. "You really earned your title, didn't you?" Sasuke smirked. "All of these things are amazing, and I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I don't see why you need to show them to me." Naruto finally changed his expression. He now looked angry. "What you've seen is my promise to you. What you have seen is to prepare you for what you're about to see." Sasuke was confused. "Let me show you the truth about Itachi. Let me show you what must be done." Naruto's hand touched Sasuke's head for the last time. Flashback 4. Naruto fell to his knees, his heart breaking when he felt Itachi's mind. "Why?" Naruto asked, his voice a soft whisper. Itachi's small smile wasn't fooling anyone. "You know why, senpai," he responded. "Danzo." "Danzo." Naruto repeated the name with venom. "We'll pay for what he's made you do. We had a plan, it was going to work. That scum will fall by my blade." He had never been this angry before. Wind blew through the trees of the forest surrounding the Naka shrine. Whether there was a plan or not, what's done is done. The Uchiha's plan to take over Konoha is destroyed, and we can keep the name pure. "What about your name?" Naruto shouted. "You'll be called a traitor, a murderer." He closed his eyes. "You don't deserve this." He opened his eyes and looked at Itachi. "Why would you listen to someone like Danzo? Why didn't you come to me?" Itachi smiled again, and this time it was a genuine smile. "For Sasuke," he said. "He agreed to let my Otuto live." "And you think I would have killed him?" the blonde asked. "You would carry out any orders the Lord Hokage gave you." "I couldn't risk that, not with my brother," the Uchiha replied honestly. The Uzumaki didn't have anything to say about that because it was true. He'd destroy the world if asked by his god. "So what now?" the blonde asked. "What are you going to do after this?" Itachi's expression morphed into a serious one. "I had help," he began. "I went to a man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "If I joined his organization, he said he'd help me. I have a bad feeling about him, even if I don't think he's truly Madara." "So you're joining to, what, act as a spy?" the blonde asked. "Yes." Itachi nodded. "I'm going to keep an eye on them from the inside." He looked at the stars that flooded the sky. "May I ask a favor of you, Captain?" Naruto sighed, but nodded. "Yes. I trust Danzo as much as I trust the Tsuchikage. I'm going to ask Hokage-sama to watch over Sasuke to keep him safe." He gave Naruto a pleading look. "The Lord Hokage won't be here forever, so I ask only one thing of you." Naruto already knew what he was going to ask. "Sasuke will be safe as long as I take breath, Itachi." "I promise." Naruto swore with certainty. Itachi smiled. He knew Sasuke would be fine now. He could leave and protect Konoha from the shadows of her enemies without worrying about the safety of his beloved little brother. "Thank you, my friend," Itachi whispered. I must speak to the Hokage. He put his ANBU mask back on. Goodbye, Naruto-senpai, and thank you for everything. Itachi shined away, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts in the forests that used to belong, to the Uchiha. The first human friend he had ever made had just been torn away from him, and it was all because of Danzo. A little brother had just lost his entire family, and it was all because of Danzo. Naruto was crying, and it was all because of Danzo. The bringer of hope craved a man's blood, and that man was Shimura Danzo. The monster had the old war hawk in his sights, and there was nowhere he would be safe. It was only a matter of time now. Itachi. End flashback. Naruto's hand left Sasuke's head slowly. The young Uchiha was frozen, unable to speak. He couldn't even tell if he was breathing, but that didn't matter. Naruto had never lied to him, so there was no reason for him to start now. Naruto had always said they would kill the person responsible for their shared pain. Not once did he say they would kill Itachi. Not once did he utter a bad word against Itachi. By the time he realized that he was in fact breathing, he was already hyperventilating. Sasuke, Naruto whispered, but the name might as well have been shouted because it got through to him. Look at me. It's not true. Sasuke whispered breathlessly. He killed them to test his own strength. He showed me. It's not true. His words were soft and slurred. He just couldn't believe it. I said look at me, Naruto said with a little more strength. He's a traitor. He wanted to kill me, not save me. He's a slaughterer. Sasuke still couldn't catch his breath. Look. At. Me. Naruto shouted, his voice breaking the raven-haired boy out of his shock. Am I talking to an infant or a proud Uchiha shinobi? Which is it, because I have neither the time nor inclination to teach babies how to breathe. Sasuke tried to calm himself down. You are one of the last two Uchiha, a powerful clan of Konoha, of heaven. You will not act like a newborn. You will calm your mind and listen to what I have to say. Sasuke nodded, calming his breath enough for Naruto's liking. The Uchiha had grown tired of being treated like outsiders, and to be honest, their claims were not empty. However, their methods were unacceptable. They planned to overtake the village, they planned to kill our Hokage. Naruto looked to his right, able to see a portion of the Lord Third Stone face. The Hokage made a plan. He wanted to send me in to eliminate those who wished harm upon Konoha. This would have worked, too, if it wasn't for Danzo. Sasuke just stayed silent, trying to keep his calm so he could hear Naruto's words, so he could hear the truth. Danzo made a deal with Itachi. Naruto's face turned into an angry visage. If he killed the entire Uchiha clan, his brother, Yu, would be spared. Naruto took a deep breath. You want to know the truth about Itachi, Sasuke? Here it is, he looked Sasuke straight in the eyes. He was ready to die as a criminal and a traitor. He accepted disgrace in the place of honor, and hate in the place of love. Despite all that, he did everything he had to with a smile on his face, for the peace of Konoha, and most of all, you, Uchiha Sasuke. Disgrace in the place of honor? I wish to kill a certain man, a certain traitor. Hate in the place of love? Hate me, Sasuke. Hate me, and when you have eyes like mine, try to kill me. Naruto could feel the young Uchiha's mind. He could feel all the anger, the desperation, the hopelessness just wash away. Like Naruto when he resolved to kill the scum from Kumo all those years ago, something in Sasuke just clicked. He knew what he had to do. He could now feel and understand himself. He knew what he was now. Naruto smirked when he heard the first words the new Sasuke spoke, and he knew they were for Danzo. Death to all enemies of heaven. Spoken like a true monster. This was all for now. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.